Today we're looking at a blues in E and specifically turnarounds in the key of E. So if we were to look at this progression here, a turnaround takes place in the last two measures of the 12 bars. In other words, measures 11 and 12. Now I'm just going to play a basic turnaround that you've probably heard before, and just to put it in a blues context, the last few measures, here we go. Last four, right here. So that was a typical turnaround. That's the one we're going to look at, but we're going to look at variations on it. The count of that would be a downbeat, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So they're in triplets. 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, what are the chords that are underlying this? I'll give you this line one more time, and you can learn this line because it's a really typical one and it works great. It's just moving down chromatically until you get to this little E major triad, and then works up to the B7 chord with that simple little bass line. Okay. And naturally, you can use that in other keys too. If you're playing a blues in A, right, and so on. So it's a good idea to extrapolate that idea into other keys. But what are the underlying chords here? What's actually happening? Is there any logic to what's happening? I would say we have an E7 chord here. And this E7 chord is sort of like, a D7 shape, right? Except we move it up 2 frets and we pin down the root. And then it moves to the 4 chord in an A7 flat 9, or you could call it a diminished chord as well if you like. And then it does the same thing with the B7 and adds that flat 9, and then it resolves to the 1. And then a quick little turnaround to that B7. What is a turnaround? The B7 would be the dominant chord or the 5 chord in the key of E. So a turnaround is just basically the 5 chord returning back to the top. The same thing happens in jazz. It happens in pop. It happens all over the place. It happens in classical music as well. And not all 12-bar blues have a turnaround, right? Some 12-bar blues will just finish up with the E7 and start again with the E7, but this with the B7 on the 5 chord is just a little bit more interesting and slightly more challenging to grab that chord, because you have to try to think over each chord that you're playing. Okay, so again, we have this E7 chord, this A7 with a flat 9, this B7 with a flat 9, right? And then we go back to the top. Yeah, let me do that one more time. Resolution to the E, then turn around. All right, so let's do some variations on that basic progression. You can just take the top 3 strings, there's your E, turning around to your B7. Let's do that again. It's just like this moving shape of a D7 in open position, which I'm sure you're familiar with. That works great. Let's take away the top note. That's a nice one. So basically what you're doing in that case is just pedaling the root of the key in E, right? Okay. And let's try another one. How about this one? Simple, just 2 strings. All right, or you could get the third of the chord. Oh, I like it better just like that. Okay, that works nicely. What else have we got here? You could also take that same idea and you can move that up to the second string set, strings 2 and 4. Same idea. It sounds nice and warm there, and here, in the middle of the fretboard here, you've got this E7. As a matter of fact, it's a good idea to move around the fretboard a little bit and play the progression as well. So E7, A7, E7, B7, right? When you play the E like this, you've got this 6 that defines the E chord, the root and the third. You can take that same idea and move that through the chords. And same B7. Those are called 6ths. You could even go so far as to take it all the way up to fret 12. This is a good exercise. Check out what I'm talking about. And so on, right? I thought I'd mention that because it's just so useful to be able to define the chords in that way, like what you're doing. Let's say if we were to look at this in the key of A, and that's just the third and the root of an A chord, and with a passing tone in between, and then moving up, thinking in terms of this as being the A7 chord and this, A7, A7, E7, E7, B7, A, and then E. Okay, that's getting a little. That's a little aside from turnarounds. But it's a nice way to think chordally, to use those 6ths, and it's some good picking practice as well. I will link this backing track in the description. Please leave a comment, the whole YouTube thing. Comments are really sort of a big deal because they help make it worthwhile. That's it for today. 12-bar blues in the key of E with turnarounds and looking at 6ths as defining the chord.